All right, good morning. Welcome to the middle of nowhere.
Hater.
Illinois. It's kind of our joke we have with Schmitty. It's good to be here. Some of you probably starting to kick off your track season. Some of you are probably winding up, getting ready to take off on this thing. So for us and our family, the end of our December and January is like the two clinic seasons our 2 months of the clinic season for us. So lots of learning and education going on as those 2 months happen. And Schmitty asked if I would talk about kind of the importance and some of the things I pulled. So we're going to kind of go through those. I think it's important. We're going to kind of go through a story. There's two ways you can take this presentation. You can say, A, these people are just a bunch of jerks because they're just like name dropping people and stuff. Or B, you can say, everybody in the running community is pretty human. And you can reach out to just about anybody and learn something from them. And over the course of the last 20 years, kind of walk through that journey and show you what that's looked like for us. I really believe that this running community is just absolutely the smallest thing ever. And we're going to talk about that as we go and how awesome it is to be able to connect and reach out to people. So Lance is going to help me out. Lance is a freshman for me. He's going to have half of this because I think part of his journey is just important for you to be able to take to your athletes and show them what they could learn and what they could do to help themselves grow a little bit. So there's some contact information. My wife's back there. Wonderful stuff. So go ahead. Go to the next one. So I'm a big Nick Saban fan, but I tell my kids this all the time, and I think this is important for you to remember. I'm not going to read it, but everything that I'm going to present and everything I coach, I didn't think of any of it. The only thought that I've ever had that we do in our program that's original to me is we have a plastic tub and we have a paper shredder, and they write their PRs on a note card. When they run their PR, they shred their note card into this big tub of PRs that we've had for the last 15 years. So everybody from when I started all the way up, all their PRs are shredded in the bottom of this tub. It's the only independent idea I've ever had in my life. And I stole that from people who break tiles. That was too messy and way too expensive. So you can go to Walmart and get a thing of note cards. So I steal everything I've got. Okay? So I think that's super important to remember. So my journey started here. Okay, this is Coach Bruin. This is my junior high baseball coach. And he is probably the reason why I've started in the journey the way I started. I thought I was going to be a Major League Baseball pitcher. Summer going to my 8th grade year, I asked him if he'd help me. Some pitching lessons. Sure. Absolutely. Found out he was a cyclist. I cycled a little bit. We ended up on the same cycling team. In high school, I'm riding 3,000 plus miles this summer with this guy by my side, plus running. Now, I coach his son. It all started asking him if he would help me. And his response is, a 7th grade going to be an 8th grader? Sure. Simple. This is Coach Ackland. Some of you may or may know that ugly face. Okay, he was my high school coach at St. Joseph Ogden High School. He taught me what work was. He taught me that everything that you're going to earn is from you. So, in the coaching realm, if you want to learn something, you've got to do the work, put it in to get there. Right? You've got to reach out. You've got to be the person that's observing. You've got to be the person that's going to practices for somebody else, sitting on somebody else's couch. Okay? This is Coach Orvis. This is my college coach. Tore my Achilles in college. I had to miss my sophomore season. Pretty much my entire sophomore season. Coach Orvis took me in like an assistant coach. So here I am at JUCO Nationals going to the coaches meeting as a 20-year-old kid learning about coaching. Instead of me sitting on the sideline not doing anything, he took me in and gave me the responsibilities of being a coach. I would never have known that and what to do if he wouldn't have just said, hey, come with me. Be by my side. Let's do this. Coach Mack, some of you know Coach Mack, Eastern Illinois University. I've been going to Eastern Illinois running camp since I was a sophomore in high school. As I went on to college, he let me be a counselor. Once I got done with college, even when I wasn't running, he let me come be a coach. He gave me the opportunity to just be around the sport, learn, love. After I tore my Achilles, I'd go help at meets. I couldn't run at a high competitive level, so he said, hey, just come do whatever you want. Always a yes. Best part was sitting in his track class at Eastern Illinois University in the back like this. I said, if you got questions that nobody answers, I'll be happy to answer, but I don't want to be that guy in class that's just answering all the questions. They gave me the opportunity. John Simple, Downers Grove North High School. They just qualified for NXN for another year this year. This is Simple thinking that he's taking a picture of his runners. I don't know if you can see in his glasses. So he's trying to coach and take pictures all at the same time. At Eastern Illinois University running camp, when I was a sophomore in high school, I met this guy. He was my counselor, John Simple. We became great friends, way before social media. He'd check in with me every year. Anytime I'd see him, we'd go to a meet, and our friendship has just evolved over the years. He's been one of my best friends ever since. Right? What I learned is, even the best programs in the nation, those guys are just human. Because I knew him before he was that coach. He was just a kid like me. And we got along and we hung out. He didn't do anything crazy or different. Right? They just run at a very high level. And when you learn what they do, it's not magical. Doug Olin. I sit in this clinic at ICA South several years ago, and I'm sitting in listening to this guy who just won several state championships. And he's talking about going and sitting at the kitchen table of Coach Ackland. Saw his picture earlier. He's talking about how they were doing things that the teams of the SJO 90s and early 2000s teams were doing. I thought, I was on that team. I was doing the things that he was doing to win state championships. After the clinic, I went up, I shook his hand. I told him that very thing. It was awesome. If I would have gone to that clinic, we wouldn't have the relationship we'd have today where I put this picture of him up here to make him laugh a little bit. Right? But I learned that through just talking to him. I sat down, went to that clinic. Man, 4 trophies in a row, state championships in a row. You know, countless all-staters, medalists. We get 3rd place a couple years ago in track. We got to share the trophy. We tied for 3rd. This is one of my favorite pictures of all time. I got the medal around my neck and he's pulling it like he's going to strangle me. Because he kept the trophy and we kept the medals, right? Is that what it was? Yeah. And then we switched. Okay? It was awesome. But I would never have had that opportunity if I would have sat in the clinic and just went up and said hi. This is Jay Johnson. Some of you know some of his stuff. We went to Boulder Running Camp in 2015 for the first time. He's not doing it anymore, unfortunately. But the deal was, if you brought 4 or more kids, coaches could go for free. So I went out, and I was expecting to see all these coaches there, and it was me hanging out with Jay for a week. Hung out with him for a week. I developed this crazy relationship with him in just a matter of time. We sat down, we started talking about training, and realized that we do almost all the same things the same way. It's just wild. So we developed this relationship and started to intertwine. He's like, hey, tell me about some Illinois coaches. I'm like, I got this guy. He's pretty good. John Simple. So I introduced him to John Simple. Well, if you know anything about stuff Jay's done, Jay loves John. Well, guess who else? John O'Malley. If you know anything about Jay, he loves John O'Malley. Guess who his teammates in high school? John Simple and John O'Malley. Would never have happened if I wouldn't have gone out to that camp with my kids and just sat and talked to them. Chris Mosley.
Wow.
And has sunglasses.
Probably one of the most passionate coaches I know. I don't know how many times we've gone to a restaurant, sat down, had a beer, had some pizza, and just talked about training. He pulls up the old York training plan that is literally yellowed from how old it is. We sit down and we examine it. We talk about things that we would do, things we wouldn't do. One of the most passionate, best coaches I know. His passion drives you into wanting to do this thing better. I send him random ideas on stuff, and he tells me I'm crazy, and he's right. But he is too. That's why I send it to him. Right? You've got to find that person you can bounce those ideas off of, even when it sounds like you're an idiot. You probably are. But you need somebody that's going to tell you that. So we started this a few years ago. Okay, this is over in Central Illinois. Some of you may or may not have sat in my garage at one point, but we started doing this. Because what I was doing was I was going to all these people's houses, and my wife wanted some weekends where I was home. So I said, what? They're all going to come to my house. So instead of spending 2 months going to people's houses, we all sat down together. Sat down in my living room, I think, as we started. I don't know how many we had, 15 or 20 as we started. And it grew. We had 40 plus people, people from all over the state, other states, come and sit in my garage. And just bounce ideas off each other. Made my wife happy. It was only 1 weekend instead of 2 months. And I got a ton from it. Right? You connect with those people. I go to the state meet, and every single class across the board, you can go shake somebody's hand and wish them luck. I'll go up to somebody came from Ohio just to sit in my garage and listen to people talk. It's crazy. Paul Vanderstein sat in my garage. Paul Vanderstein and I went out to boulder running clinics several years ago. This guy is retiring this year. He's been one of the most influential people in my career, and I've probably only known him since 2018. He's taught me that relationships are absolutely everything here. I'm not talking about with the athletes. I'm talking about with the coaches. Just went to his retirement party. There were 250 plus people there. Chris Derrick spoke at the thing, and parents of athletes were crying when they saw him. Now, it's different when an athlete who you've connected with is celebrating you, right? But when you got parents of these kids who are getting emotional about what's happened, you know the influence that you've had with those relationships you've had with kids and family. That's what this guy's taught me. That's the most important thing. Connecting with you is the most important thing. We see how quickly people drop out of things in teaching and coaching. We don't have any coaches under the age of 30 in our building. None. It's alarming what's happening. If we can develop better relationships, we can keep people in. That's not even talking about the kids. That's talking about an energetic environment where everybody can be successful. John O'Malley. I mentioned how him and Sip were teammates, right? He, over the last, he's going to watch this and tell me I'm wrong, over the last 15 years has the lowest 4x8 average in the entire nation. They average 748, is that right? 748, 748.62 for their 4x8. That's their average. He's the only coach in the nation to coach 2 individual national champions in cross country. Dylan Jacobs and Lucas Fabricas. He's not coaching track this year. His kids are young. He wants to spend time with them. Right? His value is his family. And the environment he's created with the family is the most important thing to him. We have a joke in one of our group messages. He doesn't check anything because he's with his family. He'll say, I got 130 messages to read through. I'm never going to get caught up on this. So then we send another 27 to summarize what we talked about in the first 110. But it's only because he spent time with his family. That value is very high for him. And it should be. He's taught me that big time. With my wife and with my son and with the rest of my family. Go here. That guy in the back of the room in blue, he's going to talk later. He's been there, and we're going to get to why we're there. The best coaches in the entire nation. Here, how many NXN coaches were in that picture, did he say?
20-something.
27, I think,
Yeah.
and Thor thinks there's like 3 more. Like 30 coaches who coach national teams are there. Go. If you never heard of it, look it up. Go. Once you go, you'll never not go again. So this is Thor Aspenson. There's a Zoom call on Thursday nights called the Portland Coaches Social. If you want in on it, I'll send you, get you an email, get you in the link. It dwindles a little bit more, but in its peak, how many do we have? 80? We probably had 80 plus people on Zoom, coaches at every level, just chiming in to hang out together. We talk about training sometimes, we talk about all kinds of different stuff. This is the most kind man I've ever met. He's like Lance's uncle, and I've only known him since COVID. You know how we met? Boulder Running Clinics. That's where it started. We go out to Portland for a vacation. He's like, hey, just stay at our house. All right, a week free in Thor's house, running, taking Lance running, doing all kinds of stuff. This is from Thursday night. This is the Portland Coaches Social. This is just a small group of us. National Coach of the Year, state champion, there's Sybil, who knows who he is. Ryan Miller, anybody know who that guy is? Scott Christensen's assistant coach, who deserves as much of the credit. Scott Christensen writes the USATF manual for coaches and is a phenomenal coach himself. Has the most alumni that have run sub-4. Well, that may have changed after this next year, but the most alumni that have run sub-4 ever. Coaches out in Pennsylvania, one of the best teams in the Pittsburgh area, Jay and Thor. Unbelievable. Dave Anderson, who's under here, is one of the best pole vault coaches in the nation. He lives in Louisiana, has connections, he is not his head coach, so I will not say this. But anybody who knows the current world record holder has influence there too. He's a pole vault coach. He's moving out to Florence, Oregon for a season to be an assistant coach for a guy we know who's coming up for fun. Eric Edmonds, some of you know the York guys. Eric Edmonds, phenomenal human being. What he's done at Lincoln High School has been outstanding. Ever seen the long green line? He's twin 2. Born second, as he tells me. Phenomenal guy. He's like Lance's big brother. I love him like one of my own. What did he teach me? He taught me that culture of York was awesome. That his kids don't train like the York kids train. He loves them. What's it say on his wristband? LYT. Love your teammates. Most important thing. Go to the next one. This is Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson hosts a clinic in his house that they call the Jackass Clinic in Florence, Oregon. They stay for 2 nights. He buys everything. He makes you pay like $220, right? This is the winningest coach in Oregon history.
No, second, there's a wrestling coach.
Cross country.
Okay, well, second regardless of any sport.
Yeah, second regardless of any sport. He's won more state titles than anyone. Last year they won the state championship for the girls. Guess how many girls were on the team? How's that happen? Because Chris Johnson doesn't give up. That's what I learned. He does what he wants to do. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. He's going to make sure it happens right. He has a phenomenal relationship with his kids. One thing I've learned from him, he'll text kids, but you know what he does? Every single time he texts a kid, he puts a parent in that text message. Because he wants to see the authentic communication. He wants those parents to know what that authentic communication looks like all the time. It's awesome. So like he'll text Lance and I'm in there, I'm like, I don't need to be in there, like you don't have to. It's like, it's a habit. It's awesome. He doesn't care. He's gonna do what he wants. He ran for 17 plus years without missing a day.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't like run his deficit. Well, he's run here recently. Right? What's his streak? Do you remember what it was?
It's like a year longer than Thor has.
Yeah, they were racing each other. Go to the next one. If you listen to podcasts, the Just Athletic podcast, Chris is one of the guys on there. It's on pretty much all major platforms. I listen to it. There are some phenomenal coaches on there. There's some crazy stuff on there too. But there are some phenomenal coaches. You will learn a ton. These are several of the people that show up on a regular basis. So, Jeff Bollet, this guy right here, coaches professionally. He coached in high school in Colorado, has a state record for lowest score. They have a perfect score. Guess who he's high school teammates with? John Sipple and John O'Malley. Now he's married to Katie Follett, who was Katie Mackey, who ran professionally, still runs professionally for the Beast. Coach of the year, you're going to learn who this guy is, Travis Fleck. This is was the second fastest Oregonian miler, correct? In history. Right? This guy who knows how to juggle sitting in the back of the room. One of the best coaches in Texas. Do you know who Galen Rupp is? That's one of his high school coaches. Wildwood Clinic, Jamie Harris, 1500 U.S. champion, Coach Christensen. You can take this one of two ways. You can take it as I'm just dropping names to you, or you can take it as you can learn from all these people because they're human. That's crazy. Go to the next one. If you don't know what this is for your girls, look it up. We've got a Central Illinois Wildwood. It started out in Portland. It is the most impactful thing I've ever been a part of. If you coach female athletes, I recommend that they look into Wildwood running. They do online clinics, they do in-person camps, they do all kinds of stuff. There's one going to be in Naperville, June 22nd, I believe, an in-person clinic. It is the most impactful thing ever. I could spend 3 hours talking about that. So then we learn all this stuff when we get to this guy. Okay? Lance was in 6th grade when COVID hit. He was just starting on his running journey. Now he's been around it ever since he was a little kid. He's still got remnants of his state mohawk, but he started doing that in, I don't know, 2nd grade, 1st grade, getting mohawks when our team would go to state.
Yeah, kindergarten. There's a picture of me in kindergarten.
In kindergarten, he's got a mohawk. All right, so we're like, hey, let's find a way to keep you guys, your teammates motivated. So we started this thing. Okay, there's a link there. If you don't know what the vlog is, I'm going to let him talk about his journey into this thing. So we got through all that learning, and then this is the application. He wasn't fast, still isn't that fast, but he struggled even to make the varsity in junior high. And it's evolved.
Hi, well, good morning. Obviously, you know, I'm his child, so bear with me. This is my first clinic, true presentation, so bear with me. So we talked about Coach Sipple. Coach Sipple had his team qualify for Nixon. I think they got 11th, and they were ranked the 8th best team in the country, not officially. And we knew that they were the 8th best team in the country all year long. We raced them the very first meet. They ended up whooping everyone in that race, and they just got better and better as the season gone. And we knew that with Sipple, the way he trains, the longer the season goes, the better. And we learned that it was completely true. And they were an at-large team. And we learned that Sipple, he loves his guys to death. I have interviewed him. This was my very first interview. This is me in like 6th grade. It's kind of crazy to look back at this now. But I interviewed him, and he loves his guys to death, and he will do everything for his guys. And I've learned that when you have that positive team environment, you can do a lot. You can qualify for an XN. Like, what Sipple does with his guys is amazing. These are Dad's friends. This is Paul Vandersteen, the 2007 NXN national champion, and then Coach O'Malley. These are two amazing guys. They're in a group chat all together called the Disciples. And these are two great guys. And throughout, these were the first guys that I ever really learned with. And
Whoa, so back up. You didn't know that about these guys before you knew these guys.
correct. These were Dad's friends at the time. I didn't really understand who I was talking to. Little did I know I was talking to probably top 5 best coaches in the U.S. for running. How awesome is that to get to have that as your start? And that's only because he went through those things. This is Scott Christensen. We love putting embarrassing pictures up with him. But Scott Christensen is probably the most decorated high school cross-country coach and track coach in the U.S., maybe even regardless of level. Scott, like we said, does a lot of stuff with USATF. He's on Thursday night call, and I learned a lot from him, and the education I learned with it. If there's one person I've probably learned the most facts and most information from, it's probably Scott. Scott would go on rants and rants and rants on Thursday night call, but little did we know we're getting a whole novel worth of stuff in about 5 minutes. And Scott's way of wording it, if he's talking to me specifically, is amazing. And I'm really happy for his athletes, because if I can understand it well, I'm sure his athletes can. And so the way he can educate people is amazing.
So when he started running and getting into this thing, it was a little different, where you're trying to teach a 6th grader what mitochondrial density means, right? Well, this guy's got his own exercise science lab at the high school where he can pinprick your blood and figure it out. That's not what he's talking to about Lance. He's talking about how he fell in love with the sport. Right? He's talking about why it's important to him.
And before we go, his dad was an amazing coach as well. And if we go back here, that's why I titled this Dad's Friends. And one of the main things that has ever stuck with me as Coach Christensen is don't think of these guys as dad's friends. This is Jay. This is very similar to when I interviewed him. Jay is an amazing guy. I love him to death. Such a genuine person, nice guy. And I'm sure we all know this book, Consistency is Key. If you don't have a copy, I'd make sure you go check that out. They highlight programs and some of the training that they do. But Jay, he taught me a lot of the science of running. Sure, he taught me you run more volume equals faster, correct? But he taught me why. He gave me the whys. And with learning in general, I think that would better help me understand that when I learn something, I like to understand why I do things. Because I want to know why I do them and why it helps me. And Jay has really helped me understand that if you understand the whys, you will do it better. Because why wouldn't you want to be faster? And you understand why. It's pretty easy to do it if you learn. This is the Portland Coastal Social. Peter Brewer, one of our amazing people, passed away. This was on Runner Space. I didn't even know that. That's my Instagram story about it. Peter's a great guy. Unfortunately, he passed away, and so did our dear friend Al. This picture was spewed out. This guy in the red is actually Al. Al coached in California. Peter also coached in California. They're amazing guys. I was tough losing them. But we got the Portland Coaches Social. Here's Peter, actually. Peter right there. Scott Christensen. I'm sure we all know this guy in the middle, Sean Brosman, sorry. And then we got Eric Dettman down here. Like he said, he's like my big brother. I love to give him a hard time, but I've learned so much about him. And I've learned that since he's a young guy still, he's what, like 32?
35, yeah.
No, a little bit generous on him. But
He acts like he's 15. But
yeah, he does. And I've learned that love your teammates. I tell that to my teammates now, love your teammates. What he does with his program is amazing. I was able to be a part of that program for about 3 days when we went over. Early December, I got to stay with one of his athletes. It was an amazing experience. They were super nice. I fit in well, and it was an amazing experience being able to run with some of his guys. They're super genuine, and I can hear Dettman in some of their voices, and it was kind of funny because one of his quotes that he likes to say, not really going to say what that is, but one of the quotes that he likes to say, we actually got brought up on a run, and I didn't even bring it up. One of his guys just said that. And these guys have taught me to love everybody. And all these guys on here, I love, and they are so nice. And if you can just learn to get connections, you will be amazing. And you can just learn to have all this giant circle, but make sure to keep it clean. Okay, so Sydney Gibbsby, he's one of my favorite runners. Over COVID, I started getting into this Instagram thing, and I followed a bunch of runners. But Sydney was the only person that ever popped up consistently on my Instagram page. And so he helped me find my love with running, not really knowing he was doing it. And with this, Sydney helped me find that love. But when we went out into the trials for 2021, did they have it a year late?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went out for the Olympic trials last day. Of course, this guy knows everybody. And where we grew up, well, I grew up, we found this guy standing out trials. He goes, "Reds." And he walks over, and it's one of the guys we know from Illinois. And I'm kind of standing there, and I look, and I'm like, does he run for 10 minutes? Because at the time, he ran for 10 minutes.
No. The best representation is a 12-year-old girl going to a Taylor Swift concert.
I'm not gonna lie, I hard fanboyed.
His jaw is still indented in Hayward Field's balcony area when it hit the ground, seeing Sydney standing there.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience to meet Sydney. There's a picture of me, and Brian Ross is also with him. Brian's here too, and I'm just like, I was an amazing experience, and I loved getting to see Sydney. And now he runs for Ultra, and he's starting to get back into it. And he took a break for a little while, I think about 2 months. He said he wanted to find his love again. But Sydney helped me connect with some of the professional athletes that I know now. And Sydney has helped me learn that you can connect with these people. Like, they're human. And we're going to learn that especially with one of the next upcoming runners. Now, this is my godmother's husband. His name is
Jake Gokin.
Jake Gokin. And
We just call him Getty.
yeah, his name, we call him Getty. This is Justin Knight, for those of you who are curious what that is. He works with Team Reebok a little bit. Justin Knight runs for Reebok. And I got to get this cool singlet. And little did I know, Justin Knight literally got it for me. And Getty has taught me that running is a family. And you have to stay connected with your loves. And those people that you learn from, you need to keep connections with. And Getty has helped me learn that with this, he's taught me so much with the body. He's, what is it, like an untraditional chiropractor?
Yep.
So his saying that if I see you 2 or 3 times, I've seen you way too many times. He wants to see you once because he tries to solve the problem originally. And I've learned that you need to go to the doctor as soon as you have an original problem, right?
Yep.
And that if you don't fix the problem, it'll never get better. All right, this one, definitely a very special slide. Robbie Andrews and Josette Andrews. So they just recently got married. Some of you might know her